Hey, it's Tate. So I had an interesting question in my mind recently. I was thinking about what kind of words do I think in Chinese? Now, English is my first language, Chinese is my second language. English is much stronger for me, but still sometimes even if I'm thinking in English, certain Chinese words will pop up. Maybe because I was thinking that maybe these words are just better or there's nothing really quite like them in English. So I was keeping a list of these words that I have and I asked some people on Twitter too. And I'm going to share with you a few words that came up for me and a few that came up from them too. One of the first ones on the list was Renao. Now, Renao means something like bustling or lively. So I was thinking it had kind of a different meaning from the English words, maybe, because in my mind I think of these streets in China with people everywhere, like the night market, and there's bikes and there's cars cruising through slowly, and just people at the night market buying stuff, and like hundreds and hundreds of people on the street, or the subways or the Chinese restaurants that there's 3 stories high, just packed with tables, and everybody's in there. They're talking very rather noisily and having a good time, and that I think is Renao. But after getting some feedback from some other people, I realized that actually, the word bustling, it's just fine. It's exactly Renao. It's just that the word pops up for me in my mind because I have that imagery of China when I think of it. Chinese people use that word quite a bit. I don't use it very much here in Canada. The second one that came up, actually not from me, but from other people, it came up over and over again, is the word Mafan. And Mafan means troublesome, worrisome, or actually in Nanjing, and with my wife's family, she's Chinese, they would say fansila, which is like troublesome to death, basically. So imagine for example, a Chinese person, they're used to using Alipay on their phone to pay for things all the time. Then they get onto a certain app and it wants their credit card and they don't have the number. They don't know their number, and they'd be like, oh, fansila, right? Or Mafan. I guess people not in Nanjing maybe will just directly say Mafan. A third thing that came up, a different kind of word, because this one's popular in English too, you might have heard it, especially if you're in the business world or do any business with China, is Guanxi. Guanxi is the word for relationships. They would say that you have to have good Guanxi to do business in China. And a lot of people take this word very seriously and think Guanxi is something very particular to Chinese culture. I'm not so convinced if it is. At least I don't do business in China in a way differently than I would elsewhere. But then again, I learned to do business in China, so who knows? Maybe my perspective on that is just Chinese. But when people talk about Guanxi, what they mean is you would have to become really good friends with people, probably go out eating, drinking a lot, and that you would have a reciprocal business relationship where sometimes you would do things for the other person, they would do things for you. And then people online will debate about whether Guanxi can actually be achieved by foreigners in China or not. The fourth word that came up for me in particular was Lanwei, and this is appendix. And this word is actually just a 100% direct translation between English and Chinese. It's for your appendix. And the reason that word comes up into my head when I'm thinking about it is because my appendix burst in China. They said I could have died from it. I was in the hospital. They removed my appendix for me, did the whole operation. I didn't have great painkillers. It really, really hurt. I became pain, and then everything was fixed. But because it had that, I think, emotional impact, whenever I think of appendix, I think of the Chinese word Lanwei first. The fifth one is Juhuaye. This is a food that I had in Nanjing, and I had to look up the English word for it. Apparently it is a chrysanthemum leaf, and I don't know if I've ever eaten this in outside of China. I think I've had chrysanthemum tea, but not the leaves. And I don't even know if that translation is correct. There's a lot of different foods that are in China, and even regional in different places in China, where definitely I would think of those words first, and I think other people would too. It's just about where you experience the thing first, I guess. Next one is Chabuduo. This one came up a lot online from people that I asked. A lot of different people mentioned this one. Now, Chabuduo means it's like good enough, you know. It's like it's almost there, you know. They have this attitude comes up in China a lot, where say maybe if they were writing a report for somebody, they might not adjust all the formatting and everything quite as nicely as I would want from the Canadian standards that I learned in school and university. So they think this is Chabuduo, this report that's a little bit messy, they might say is Chabuduo, whereas I'd be like, oh, you gotta, all the bullet points need to be right, and the spacing needs to be right, and all these things. That's just one example, but I think this comes up over and over again in Chinese culture. They like to just get things done pretty good, you know, good enough, and then keep moving, keep improving, and going on and on and on. Okay, the second last one is ma. Now this is a taste, right? So you have different tastes, sweet, salty, spicy, and bitter, and ma. Ma is numbing. So in Chinese food, especially in Sichuanese food, there would be this numbing flavor to it. Yeah, you know it if you have the food often. It often comes in conjunction with with spicy. So you have ma la, numbing and spicy with your soup. You'd have those little peppers in there, and it makes your mouth feel numb, kind of and tingly. And when I first had that flavor a lot in China, I thought that maybe there was something wrong with the food. Maybe there was some kind of, you know, chemical in it that I shouldn't be eating or something. But then I started to like it, and I got used to it. And the last one, this is from somebody else, not from me, but they said that the word Jiong often comes up into their mind. And this is a really interesting character in particular because it has the the character itself looks like a face. It looks like somebody kind of with their mouth open and like their eyebrows like this. And it's meant to show kind of like embarrassment in a situation. And it's used a lot online, especially. It's basically a traditional Chinese character that was repurposed and used almost like an emoji nowadays. I'd like to hear what you guys think about this too. Do you speak a second language? Are there some words that come up in your mind in that language, even when you're thinking in your main first language? Thanks, and I'll see you later.